January 8th. First community meeting of the year, I think. Shriti has dropped a link to the meeting minutes in the chat, so that means there's no excuse for not having your name in the meeting minutes. Please do toss your name in if you're on. I guess if you're not on, then you can't hear me, so it doesn't matter.
I have a technical question, if we have time.
Go ahead.
We have a build.sh bash shell script. My friend told me that I shouldn't put a command that sudo apt-get or apt-get, some similar. So is it correct to include sudo there or not? Is it correct, or is it safe technical way or security way?
Nice. Yeah, Mert, that sounds like an excellent topic. Yeah, let's I'll put your name down next to the topic of security of
Bash script. Yes.
Cool. Nice. Very good.
Thanks.
Other topics. I was hoping someone would not put in their last name today. I'm feeling ornery.
It's not. I cannot, like you. I cannot write such as French names.
Oh. Oh, funny. Okay, well, fair enough. So it's the January 8th. I think I mentioned that before. And so welcome everybody. Let's get rolling. There's a number of you, I think, that are on the call who have, as of this moment, forfeited how your name looks. So we'll get your name recorded no matter what. There's Adina gets a pass considering that she's on mobile. So that'll work. And then Shriti, if you could help me embarrass everyone else, that would be great. Or maybe embarrass myself. Okay, good. Hey, do we have any newcomers on today's call? Anybody fresh for the first time on this call and wants to get
I am, sir.
Nice. All right. Hey, very good.
I lead the show on Folio. I'm here as well. I haven't made it to a newcomers meeting yet.
Oh, very good. Mr. Foley, Mr. Aditya. Gents, we have the best of traditions, and that is to try to embrace everybody warmly and ask that you just give a brief intro. Say a few words about yourself and where you're from and why you're here, or what your favorite color is, you know. But Aditya, if you wanna go first.
Sure, Mr. Lee. Hello, everyone. My name is Aditya, and I'm from Chennai, which is in the southern India. I'm actually a sophomore at Anna University pursuing information technology at Chennai. And my interests are cloud technology, DevOps, and any part of technology which makes me interested, even machine learning too. And yes, my favorite colors are red and orange. And I have joined the Layer5 community because of the LFX mentorship program. I just saw the, what you can say, the meshery project, and it got me interested. But at that time, I didn't know there was this valuable community. So yeah, I'm here, finally.
That's fantastic. That's a great, Aditya, I think I would remember that Transformers logo from maybe a PR already that's come through, I think.
Yeah. Yes, it's me.
Nice. All right. yeah, it goes without saying, I guess, compliments on your choice of avatar. So very nice to have you. Thanks for coming. I appreciate the orange and red too, that we'll take a note. Sean, if you don't mind saying a few words.
Sure. Yeah. Good morning and good evening, everybody. My name is Sean Foley. I'm based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I currently serve as a senior principal engineer for General Dynamics mission systems. I focus on system security engineering, cloud security, vulnerability management, and I'm very interested in the meshery project. Unfortunately, the last couple of weeks have been kind of short on time, but I'm really interested in service mesh for security purposes, across all sorts of different platforms. So I'm really interested in, being able to basically run a service mesh at the touch of a button. And I'd, played around with meshery a bit, and wanted to try and join the project and see if I can help contribute to, documentation and help people get a greater understanding and see if we can use it in higher security environments. And let's see, that's kind of where I'm at from a technical perspective. I got a nice 4-day weekend here, so when I saw the meeting come up this morning, I wanted to join and see if I can contribute going forward.
Wait. Okay, yeah, two questions, Sean. Let me get this straight. We just came off of holiday, and you have a 4-day weekend this weekend. Is that?
Yes, our company does we call it a 980 schedule. So we work longer days and we get every other Friday off, but then we're also limited to 80 hours in a pay period. So if I work a little longer, I can take another day on PTO on Monday with just a couple hours of PTO. So I get a 4-day weekend. So I'm pretty excited.
Now, is that open postings? Is that jobs at General Dynamics? Where can I?
Probably careers, careers at General Dynamics. Yes, a lot of the defense industrial base, I realize, does that 980 schedule. I'm not sure why, but people love it because we get 26 3-day weekends a year, and it's all scheduled like clockwork.
It's like mini holidays. Yeah. Okay.
It is. That extra day gives you a lot of just extra time to think and relax. A bit about myself: I've lived in Germany, lived in Japan for many years. I went to technical school. I was teaching in Japan for the Ministry of Education, and I wrapped up and went to technical school in India before outsourcing was a thing. And I've gone and taken a lot of classes in Pune and in Hyderabad as well.
I was. Now that you say it, it makes sense as to why you didn't say Minnesota. I guess that's because you've been around. So the accent is, well, there isn't one, or near as I can tell.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to share with everyone. Is it just language, or I'm sorry, is it just English that that you're proficient in, or is there?
I speak Japanese fairly well, but it's been quite a long time. I can understand a fair amount of spoken German, but I'm not very verbal in German, and my Hindi has trailed off. So I wish I spoke some Hindi, but I don't anymore. It's been a long time.
There's a few folks here who might give you a run for your money. So we'll,
yeah, I think I would lose.
Oh, okay, great, good, very nice to have Sean with us. Clearly I take a lot of enjoyment out of trying to harass people, so this is nice.
Sure.
Boy, so a couple of announcements today. Shriti, we've got a number of folks who've joined this week. If I'm not mistaken, this looks like it might be. Oh, I see. Perhaps a little bit of a longer list. Is that because we had canceled?
We missed 2 meetings. Yep.
I see. Okay. So that's what 2 weeks looks like. As I'm doing my best to embarrass folks today, I don't think he's on the call, but I'll call out Otto Vandershoff. He's in, well, all those European countries, they're all the same. He's in, Mihu, you're going to have to forgive me. It's not Norway, but it's either Switzerland or Sweden. I think it's Sweden. But I'd call it Otto because he'll likely be a name that you might see pop through Slack a few times. He just joined today, and he's a maintainer of the project called Nighthawk. And we'll talk about Nighthawk a little bit today. So I expect he'll be an active member. It'll be nice. In other announcements, there's an IstioCon for the first time is coming up. There's a call for papers out there to the extent that I think the call for papers, the deadline is this Monday, if I recall. If anyone's interested in talking, let me know if I can help you submit a proposal. Let me know if you want to co-present. Lots of stuff to talk about with the things that we do here. So we will be submitting for sure. I wanted to say also, I'm just on an embarrassment streak, and I don't know if I wanted to really only try to embarrass one person today, and that's Rodolfo. We're gonna talk about that. But I think I made the mistake of probably embarrassing Dev instead, based on my really poor work here. But Mr. Kalra has just concluded his community bridge, or now LFX, Linux Foundation internship with us. And so Dev, congrats, you did a great job. You left a mark for sure. There's a mesh sync in particular, the meshery operator. There's a few components that have your name all over them. So impressive.
Yeah.
Nice work.
Thanks. Thanks, Dave. It has been great. Yeah, I learned a lot and contributed a lot, so it has been great.
And I think maybe the thing I'm most tickled about is that, is that you haven't learned your lesson yet. You're going to continue to hang out and make some waves.
Maybe that will take some time.
Nice. Probably final announcement for today is, we were just having the existing maintainers here in the community weigh in on, their thoughts on Mr. Vega, on Rodolfo. Is Rodolfo with us? It's a lot easier to embarrass people when they're, I know he said that he had a meeting during this hour today. So he and I were chatting last night. But many of you know Rodolfo. He's been in the community for a while. He had, he'd attended a workshop that I delivered in Guadalajara last year, and has been hanging out in the community for some time. Over the last few months, he's really stepped up in his contributions, and he's written a blog post out there on Layer5.io talking about the use of Cypress UI and how we're using it in the project for functional testing. So he as well has left a mark, and we recently had a discussion on him stepping up and taking on some formal responsibilities by way of becoming a maintainer. His area of focus would be on continuous integration. And there's a lot of continuous integration that goes around. Every single component that we have here, every repo that we have here has multiple workflows. Most of you are familiar with the fact that we use GitHub Actions and workflows in GitHub Actions. And so there's a lot to do there. If you haven't met Rodolfo, he resides in Guadalajara. So you think he's the only other, no, Sean actually is in the same time zone which is nice, which makes it feel not as awkward when I say good morning to everyone. So he's at Rackspace. He's a software engineer. He focuses on Rackspace's managed Kubernetes offering. He's currently working in Golang tooling there, and a bit of Terraform and a bit of Golang to help manage their Kubernetes environments. He's quite adept with React.js. And so, although I don't think he would ascribe the term to himself, that full stacker is probably appropriate. But so congrats to Rodolfo. Very, very pleased. And it's actually very timely that he's stepping up and stepping in. Many of you have known Kush Trivetti, who's also an intern well, a multiple time intern here in the community. And Kush's internships have ended and he is off to greener pastures. Kush had been focused in continuous integration. And as a matter of fact, let's get into our first topic here. And since Rodolfo isn't on, I'll just take it real quick. And that is that, as I was saying, there's a lot to do around continuous integration. We had a standing meeting on the topic. And I'm going to pull up, there's sort of two versions, I think, of this particular calendar, this community calendar. There's one out on meshery.io and there's one out on layer5.io. Really, they say the same thing. They point to the same calendar. This doesn't make it as clear as I had hoped, but essentially we have a meeting every day, which is kind of a lot. There's a lot going on. And so as we look to revive the continuous integration meeting, for my part, I'm tapped out. I can hardly keep up with you guys and gals as it is. And so Rodolfo is going to lead a bi-monthly meeting every second and fourth Thursday. So this next Thursday would be kind of the first meeting in which the CI working group or the CI meeting would be brought back to life. Last time we met was back in August. Folks like Adina, who are on, had been stewards within this area. And so thankfully, Adina is still with us. And she's got history and understanding of things that we've done. We've got a number of new components now.
Yes, please consider me. I mean, yes.
Very good. Nice. And the thing is well, we're going to talk about this in a minute, but there are a number of new components coming forth in meshery. And so they all need continuous integration. And so it's a big topic. Hence, I think we'll have a lot to discuss in those meetings. And so I'll pause there and say, one, congrats again to Dev and to Rodolfo. Two, does anyone have comments or questions on what we've said so far? Okay.
I need to say thank you, Lee. Sorry.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, thank you for this. I am happy to contribute to meshery as a maintainer now, and I am glad to organize this CI meeting every second and fourth Thursday. And I will be happy to have you all there in the meeting.
Nice. Good. As a matter of fact, yeah, go ahead, Mert.
Thanks. I have a question about if we can make an awesome list for both projects, including projects, all list, and the maintainers, the community leaders.
Yeah, that's a great ask. It's a great ask, Mert. I think between the two questions or two requests that you just had, I wonder if the first one is answered, and this is an old picture, but I wonder if the first one is answered by this document here. It's an overview of, it's essentially a look at what's being done here by way of repository. And so in each repository, what project does that house, and what language is that? What's the purpose of those things? So hopefully this, if you haven't seen it, hopefully this is enlightening.
Yes,
As a matter of fact,
could you please send it to Slack channels?
Yeah, you bet. As a matter of fact, it's in the welcome guide. It's in the.
I can convert it to Markdown in maybe 30 minutes.
Nice.
Maybe less. Today, I will do it.
Oh, very good. Yeah, there's actually two other workshops that we need to add here. In case anyone wants to hit that real quick, there's an advanced Istio workshop, and then there's a Linkerd, fundamentals of Linkerd we need to add. But yeah, hopefully that answers your first question. Your second question is well placed. So just to repeat it for everyone, and that is, more or less like, hey, is there a central place to, is there a list of maintainers and what components that they're maintaining, or what areas they're maintaining? There is, although it's not well done and it's not very prominently posted. As a matter of fact, on the topic of governance at large, there's not a lot of rules that we have written down. And as we look to potentially donate Service Mesh Performance, SMP, that project, to the CNCF, as we look to potentially donate meshery as a project and all of its components to the CNCF, and as we grow as a community, there's what, 1,300 something of the people here in Slack. There's across the projects, there's, I don't know, closing in on 250 contributors, people who've literally committed code, because contribution is more than just code, by the way. That having some formalized governance is something to do. I'm gonna take that note, Mert, about.
Thanks.
We'll just call it governance for now. That's a great, it's a good ask immediately, like to help satisfy part of that question right now. There, if you go out to Layer5 IO/community, you're able to browse the list of people who've been here for a while, people who've consistently contributed, and well, this version of let's take this fine-looking young gentleman here. In the time that this profile has gone up, Abhishek is actually one of the maintainers. But this is one of the areas where you can peruse for sort of who's focused on what. And the reality is this is a little bit underdone. I'll sort of steal some thunder maybe from Nikhil, Josh, and Tanuj, and many others who are working on a new version of this site. There's a number of contributors here who have contributed, who are making a whole new Layer5 IO site. And as in doing so, this looks familiar, but they've significantly enhanced part of what people are able to quickly filter on, which is on maintainers and on former maintainers. And so this list is incomplete. We're missing some maintainers. Thank goodness this is still a work in progress.
Can we automate like synchronization?
No. And the reason being is because, and I don't mean to say that curtly in any regard, that's a great question. That would be awesome. Here's the problem with trying to automate, to automate what it means for someone to be active or inactive, or to be a contributor or to be a maintainer, is it ain't all about the code, is one thing. Just by virtue of the fact that Aditya joined this call today and said hi and told us what his favorite colors are, among other things, that's a level of engagement. I really appreciate that he's here. At some point, if he keeps doing it and he keeps, even if all he'd ever did was sort of make some comments every now and again, well, that's a form of contributing. So my point is, there's an individual in the community actually who's joined the calls pretty consistently for a little over a year, hasn't so much as said one word on the calls. I've had personal conversations with him, literally hasn't said one word. I really appreciate that he comes. He learns a lot. He says some things privately every now and again, but just doesn't feel comfortable on the calls. That individual is anyway, point is, long-winded way of saying, hey, it's more than just code. So automating it is like, ain't gonna happen. The thing is we take the community pretty damn seriously anyway. And so every single individual in the community has a name and a background. And oh my Lord, it's a lot of work to try to keep up, but thus far we have. And so my point is like, we wouldn't get the automation right anyway.
Maybe another solution should be, an array can be discourse forum.
Oh, I missed. You say that again, Mert?
Discourse forum, like Ubuntu have
Totally.
discourse,
Totally. Yeah, yeah. It's a good.
because it is a gamifying. It's gamifying the community, and then you have levels, and you see who is active, or you have points, kind of.
Cool. Yeah, please strike up a conversation with Tanuj Agarwal on that, if you would.
Okay.
Yeah, that we should absolutely do that. Let me pause there and say, did anyone else have comments on governance, the maintainers list, the community profiles, the discourse? If you're not familiar with discourse, if you don't think that you're familiar with discourse, you probably are, or you may very well be. It's sort of a new age bulletin board, if you will. It's a way of, it's a set of forums and some open source software to help you host forums. And there are many people just coming to learn service meshing. So yeah, we would like to have a a discourse instance. That would be
Thanks.
okay. Good. We have a couple other topics. I apologize. This isn't always the way it is. I apologize that a lot of these I'm speaking to. Let's try to change that real quick. We've all been working toward the next meshery release. And thanks to all of you, it's going to be significant. And so Dev, Dhruv, Abhishek, Utkarsh, anyone else other than me, does anyone want to speak to what some of that's going to be?
Yeah. All right. So the new release consists of a new component. It introduces new component, which is called a meshery operator, which is again the same. It is one of the Kubernetes operator that we have developed in order to facilitate a couple of components inside the cluster, which runs inside the cluster, gathers some data from inside, and gives it back to meshery. And so, do we have an architecture diagram? Let me, or I'll. Is it okay if I just verbally describe it?
Sure.
All right. So the meshery operator is a component that that handles and manages all of the components that belongs to meshery inside the cluster. Right now, we have planned with two major components that offer great visibility from inside the cluster for meshery, which are mesh sync and a broker, which is indirectly NATs that we are using. The mesh sync as a service is nothing but a custom Kubernetes controller that gathers all the resources, that discovers all the resources that are present inside the cluster, all the deployments, pods, and whatever is present inside the Kubernetes cluster, and discovers all those data, and then helps meshery to be able to discover all of them. It gives back the whole discovery data to meshsync, and this is being facilitated by the broker that we talked about. So the architecture is that meshsync would discover all the components, gives it back to meshery via the broker. And the importance of meshsync here is that now whenever meshery is being booted up, we don't have any, if the cluster has been configured with something previously, we won't have that data reflected in meshery. But after introducing mesh sync in the picture, while the meshery server is being booting up, we will all those configurations and all those changes that was previously done on the cluster would also be would also be reflecting in the meshery dashboard. And the operator that I mentioned earlier is a manager that controls the life cycle of both the broker and the mesh sync. And yeah, this is basically one of the major changes that we are going to bring in on the coming up meshery release. Lee, do you want to add something onto it?
Yeah. Well, questions like who's got questions? So you please ask them. Okay, which is, what the hell is NATS? It's probably one of them. Another one is, I heard about GraphQL, but what's the difference between that and REST? I suspect another one might be a Kubernetes controller, a custom controller. Okay. I don't know. So is this operator a real person? Any of those questions are valid questions in case people have those.
I'm just looking to get my head around the architecture, but it's really nice to have the deck. So thanks for putting that out there.
Totally. Yeah. One thing I guess I will add about this set of new components is to highlight mesh sync. And this is, I'm gonna bring this up. This is a horrifically ugly diagram, but it reinforces the point of what I'm about to say, which is that this custom controller mesh sync that gets deployed and runs inside of Kubernetes. There'll be one instance of mesh sync running per Kubernetes cluster. Its job is to, well, I hate to use the same word to describe the thing that in the definition, but it's to synchronize. It's to make sure that meshery as a management plane, as a piece of management software, is continually up to speed with changes that are occurring within the cluster, particularly around elements that meshery is managing. Those elements, the first class elements, are various components of the mesh. So proxies in the data plane, so all of the service meshes themselves, all of their internal details, as well as the applications or the workloads that are running on those service meshes. And so that's meshery's core function. And in many respects, and this is sort of how the meshery operator logo came to be, in many respects, mesh sync is sort of the heart of, well, it's almost the heart of meshery. It ends up pumping all kinds of info about what's happening inside the cluster, pumping it back to the various components of meshery, pumping it over to meshery's user interface so that we can have a visual topology to show people visually what's going on and where traffic is flowing and that kind of a thing, to be able to execute workflows on, to be able to reason over and evaluate policies about how people want to run their mesh, using all that info. And it needs to be, so this machinery, this heart, needs to be super fast, built for purpose in terms of being able to scale up. And so in the internals of mesh sync include a couple of different stages of discovery, so that discovery is being done as efficiently as possible. It also has a couple of basically pipelines, discovery pipelines. So if it discovers an interesting component, so you know what, like we could do a whole thing on mesh sync, and maybe we should. Mesh sync uses some fingerprints to identify particular objects. And, I think the operations of mesh sync and this whole flow and the way that this works is highly interesting, and it's taken well, a collection of a lot of people to finally get this done. And this is like, with this meshery, you know, beyond a .5, it's closer to, you know, having the core architectural components that I think that it needs to be able to achieve a 1.0. It's not all the way there. There's a couple of architectural components that are missing, and really, actually, those are a couple that we've been showing here. There's no workflow engine in meshery, but there ought to be. And there's no ability to describe or to evaluate policies in meshery, but there probably ought to be. And so just for some of you, like as you look forward between what's on roadmap from, you know, halfway to 1.0 to 1.0, like these are two of the more significant components. There's a side component that I don't know if it's appropriate to really refer to it as a component, but for those of you who are familiar with the fact that any service mesh that is using Envoy in its data plane, Envoy supports, like other proxies, like Nginx and like HA proxy. Each of these proxies, most of them have an extensibility model where you can plug in various traffic filters. So maybe you want to, maybe the proxy that you're using is aware of HTTP traffic, but is not aware of NATS traffic or Kafka traffic or Postgres SQL, but you'd like to intercept that type of traffic and have your proxy be intelligent and do intelligent things based on the information, based on a protocol specific set of information. Anyway, there's a new, sort of a newfangled way of doing that, and it's growing in popularity. It has to do with WebAssembly, WASM, and Linkerd's proxy, which is custom written for Linkerd. It's written in Rust. It has a roadmap to support WebAssembly filters as well. And so anyway, consequently, if you've ever sat on the meshery.io for a little while and sort of watched as the slides auto progressed, or if you looked at this, you know, it's better if we do this. So if suffice to say, part of that, part of getting to 1.0 is to have meshery support WebAssembly filters, and it does today, just not in a robust way. Today, you can go deploy an Istio service mesh. You can have meshery dynamically insert a new custom filter into your sidecar proxies. But it's a fairly static functionality that's been delivered thus far, and it needs to be enhanced and made generic. And so visually, that's sort of what this looks like, meshery inserting things into the data plane. So I'll stop there. I know some of that's a lot for some folks, and for others, it's old news. But to help, but to just, I guess, characterize a little bit of where we're at overall, sort of on our journey to being, you know, architectural component complete, if you will. Major step, like by any other measure, what's been done here between the V04 and the V05, it absolutely warrants a major release, a tick in the major box. But we're just not production ready. We're not production ready yet, is the thing. Interestingly, has anyone gone over and counted up when we add Nginx service mesh adapter and the traffic mesh adapter? What does that bring us to in terms of adapters?
Question, Lee, that's just an adapter. It's not it won't be an embedded component, will it?
Exactly, precisely.
Okay.
Yeah, optional. Yeah.
I'm bringing that up because we're banned from using Nginx in production because of who controls it.
That makes total sense. Yeah, a lot of, well, there's some folks on this call who will actually so the answer is yes. I'll just expand to, and that is all of the framework that's used for the adapters has essentially been rewritten recently. Not essentially, like it was entirely rewritten. And so that's really nice because putting out new adapters and making the ones that we have today smarter becomes a lot easier. And yeah, it's a common request that someone says, well, hey, I really appreciated the ability to use meshery to let me explore and go through my adoption phase of figuring out, did I want this one or did I want that one? But I've chosen that one, and that's actually all that we're running. So, I don't really need these other adapters. Can I just disable them? And the answer has always been yes there, because they are separate components. They run in their own Docker containers, and you don't have to run them if you don't want to. But also in the v05 release, or that's coming up, and there's, by the way, we're about to do our first probably beta release candidate. There's a new command line. There's a new meshery CTL subcommand, and we've got 15 minutes left. And instead of maybe talking about that, maybe what we can do is, just ask folks to go give this a twirl. There's a new subcommand called context. And if you're running the stable release of meshery right now, which is what you would run by default if you just install meshery, you won't have this subcommand. So if you're interested in trying it out and you're still fresh on meshery, ping me or Abhishek or Anirudh, or there's a long list of folks to help get your hands on context. But the ability for meshery CTL to have context really helps with saying that you've got multiple deployments of meshery, or just a single deployment of meshery, and you want to configure it. You want to run this adapter, not that one. You want to tweak how it's running. You can do so. Okay, I'll pause there as we move off of the v05 release. Any other comments on that? Okay, so good. So we think we've got about 15 minutes left. We've got,
Sorry, I have a question about code optimization.
Code optimization?
Yes, we have different fields of parts of layer 5 projects. So is there a policy? I see that there is a machine learning part in the presentation. Is there a policy to handle code optimization reports, reports, or the directly code optimization?
Yeah, good question. Let me clarify the question. There might be two of them in there. One of them has a better answer than the other, by the way. So is your question more about code optimization across the projects? Is there practice and procedures around coding conventions, linting, optimizing in terms of reducing number of lines of code, and the types of constructs that you use in your language that are more efficient than the next? Are you referring to that, or are you referring to?
Such as an example, if if we write a code that if else, but we don't have to write else parts. It seems like a simple code optimization example. We write a code, yeah. If I do that, else I do that. We don't have to write else part, because I learned that at my lessons. It's a kind of a practice of code optimization.
Nice. I'm going to put that as a sub bullet under the CI meeting as a good topic to address there, because the reality is we would use there's a litany of different static analysis tools out there to help, identify.
Yes, because we have Golang, uh, npm, we have uh, um, the Ruby language also.
So there's, and there's actually, whoa, I hit the wrong hotkey. There's, I'll see your static analysis and I'll up you another, and that is, Mihu has asked in the past about a different form of static analysis. So there's an open question about sort of performance, and then there's another question about security. And there are like security, security is a massive topic, but just like very simply and sort of explicitly with respect to the containers that are being published by the projects, are those being scanned? Like, hey, there's security, and I guess the way of sort of splitting up this set of discussions is like performance, security within whether or not we've got a bunch of attack vectors or issues, the way that we're designing and architecting within the code that's being written in the community. And then there's security concerns with respect to all of the transitive dependencies, all the dependencies on other. So the part of the, it's a big old long can of worms that is within all that, but part of the answer is there's some low-hanging fruit, things like security scans on Docker Hub, or security scans using GitHub's integration. Actually, both Docker Hub and GitHub integrate with Sneak. GitHub integrates with a few other things. We're not using GitHub as the artifact repository for containers, but rather Docker Hub. There's some low-hanging fruit to go and potentially address and begin to use some tools to help improve our posture there. And so Sean, actually kind of a fortuitous meeting for you to join, just based on, and there's no, hey, we should do those things, or like there's,
If I talk about security issues like information security, as I learned from Rapid7 and Metasploit people, it is easy to run exploits to test or exploit directly a source code, a project, a binary, but it is hard to find an exploit that nobody knows. So if you are searching for a better platform, we need to search like 0-day an active control over the source code. I mean that because the attackers will run the tools that possible in the internet. So we have to make a better consciousness to move faster before the attackers. Kind of.
Totally. That makes sense. What am I getting? So yeah, go ahead, Sean.
I was having a lot of audio problems. So I missed a bunch of that.
Yeah. We'll put a pin in it. Because,
yeah, I definitely would like to join the CI meeting and discuss security more.
Nice, beautiful. Okay, last thing, and we need to get to this because because Pratya is here with us, because there's other folks. I can't see the full list of attendees at the moment, but Nisarg is here with us. So I had mentioned Otto Vanderschaff earlier, and I had said, hey, it's great that he joined today. We are we've begun to be earnest about the Get Nighthawk project, and there's actually a few different angles to this project. We introduced this project on a CNCF TOC call this week, letting people know that we're going to be spending some time inside of the service mesh working group in the CNCF to, well, on a few different work streams. One of those is this project, and I won't bore everyone by describing it. It's the doc. Hopefully, the doc does that by itself, and it's not a very long doc. Rather, I'll use the time to say, Neil, Nisarg, we're ready. It's time. A domain name was registered late last night, and about 5 minutes after, or about 10 minutes after it was, Mert noticed it and pointed out that, like, anyway, a domain is up, and obviously the site is not anything like it should be, but Pratya, green light, like it's go time.
Okay.
No pressure. So there's a host of individuals who are involved and will be focused here, and there's we don't need yet another meeting, or none of us really need that necessarily. I've been desperately trying to, well, find the right time inside of the CNCF SIG network to cover Get Nighthawk, and we actually did. Rodolfo and Mert were both on the call yesterday when we covered it in depth. So that's probably about it. I just encourage everyone to read that briefly. You'll get a sense of whether or not it's a project of interest to you or not. There's a lot of continuous integration that needs to happen, continuous integration work to go on in that project. And Mert, if you don't mind, just because we will likely blow past the 4 minutes that we have left, if we can tee this up as a topic.
No, it's not a problem.
So, all right, who's got anything else? Now's actually a good time if you're twiddling your thumbs, if you don't have things that you're working on, now's a good time to just quickly raise your hand, and a mesh mate will be by to escort you.
I need some direction at some point over the next couple of days around the message that you and Shriti sent to me in Slack, Lee, about the documentation piece, how I could get started. So I'd like to follow up on that and put some time into that this weekend.
Nice.
I saw the message just wasn't crystal clear on the ask.
Oh, sure.
So I can catch up with you offline, or whatever works.
Yeah, I might even suggest this, that as we go to conclude, if you have another 20 minutes, maybe as we conclude here, that we would just like walk through what that looks like to build the build the docs, update them.
Yes. Yeah, I could do that. I need like a 5-minute break, but then I could come back.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna step away for a bit.
Okay, sounds good. Who else? Anybody else have items?
Well, I have a question about the organization. Okay. So far, as I browse the organization, the GitHub is the main usage I see. Do you guys maintain any issues board in Jira or something? Just a clarification. Yeah,
that's a great. There's a doc on this that I want to try to bring up. The quick answer is nope. There are a couple of forms of communication that get used within the community, and much to Michu's dismay, there's not just one. Which can be,
correct me if I'm wrong, but if we are not wrong, then like we have started planning to shift our discussions on the GitHub discussions, right? We had that on a call.
yeah, that's totally right. So the Pratya, actually, do you want to describe this more?
Yeah, like in the last GitHub Satellite meeting, they introduced the GitHub discussions. Until then, it was on beta. So we had a talk on that. If we have to move our discussions to Jira or something like that, then someone mentioned in the call about the GitHub discussion. Then we just took at that point. If we have to like continue do any sort of discussions, we can use that.
The nice thing about GitHub discussions is that those can be converted to issues, which is good. On GitHub, we had in the past tried to use a project board, and maybe we're at and it didn't work out because, you know, there's all the best of intentions for people to spend time doing kind of program project management, and it, you know, falls by the wayside. And we might be of the size of a community now that actually having some having some roadmap, having a couple of project boards is probably helpful and useful enough that we may begin to use project boards. I wish it was something a lot stronger like Jira, but unless we have a donor, a sponsor for those user accounts, we wouldn't be using it. What else am I missing here? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so meetings and meeting minutes. So there's a ton of, if any of you haven't spent time just perusing the community drive, I hope that you are pleasantly surprised by all that you would find in there. So yeah, these things are sort of sources of truth. There's a lot in the Google Docs. The Google Drive covers meshery, service mesh performance, get Nighthawk. There's like 6 or so different websites that the community works on. Those are all that is in the community drive. So yeah, so it's okay. As we go to wrap, I'll ask this. I'll say that. So I flashed very briefly the next generation version of the Layer5 IO site. There's a lot of you who've been diligently working on that, doing designs, redesigns, implementation, re-implementation. We have a goal to have that site out at the start of the year. And so the start of the year is here. We're on the precipice of that being able to go live. I'm going to make a call out. I'll likely look to meet with a few of you tomorrow. If you're willing and able and available, Josh and Tanuj and Nikhil and others. And we'll see if we'll see how far off we are from publishing that site. I think it'll be something for everyone to be really proud of. And if for all of you that are in here, if you haven't seen it and you want to take a look, and everybody's got an opinion, this is the link to it. It is incomplete. If you're seeing things gapingly off, it's a work in progress, but it's getting closer. So it's there. And actually, Tanuj or Josh, or anyway, if you want to toss in a link to the designs that you all work on in Figma, feel free so that others can. Thank you. Okay. Well, we're a few minutes after. I think that's it for today. Anyone that wants to hang out and look at meshery docs and how those work and get more familiar with Jekyll and things, you're welcome to stay. But everyone else, thanks for coming. Have a great week. See you same time next week.
See you next week.
All right.
See you. Thanks.
See you later, Lee. And yeah,
Bye,
it's
guys.
night time already.
No,
night.
yeah, please. Yeah.
I've been out for like more than 2 weeks. What did I miss?
Yeah. So by the way, no one feel guilty for taking off. Like, yeah, please take off. We've already been. But yeah, Prate, boy, we've been really, you know, like there's one thing that's super exciting to me, and it's I don't even think it's listed in the release notes just yet. It's a massive step forward on the extensibility of meshery. There are a number of extension points where people can come in and augment the behavior of meshery. And it's a long shot maybe, but it's my hope that while I was having a conversation with HPE's COO just before the break, and they look over and see meshery, they look at the adapters and they just start drooling because they don't have a service mesh, and they but they'd like to, or they'd like to be very much in the game. They're third party to it. They look at the adapters and think, wow, we could do some things and help manage some meshes. Awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's
Good.
awesome, man. The community is growing strong. That's what I can say.
Awesome.
Hell, I can't keep up. You can, that's the,
Oh, by the way, Happy New Year to you all.
Thanks, Happy New Year.
Happy New
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Very good. So let's see if we can't make some quick work of ramping Sean and anyone else who's interested in meshery docs. Sean, a choice. I can drive, and I can drive, or you can, depending upon whether you'd like to kind of focus on getting your dev environment or your sort of getting you set up, or I can share here and just kind of show you, my flow.
What do I need to? Let me know what I would need to do to get set up, and let's see if I'm ready for that right now. Because if I'm ready, then I could drive. Otherwise, it might be
Gotcha. Yeah, it's
painful getting set up.
Yeah, in principle, it's just a text editor, or like
okay.
Which is to say, so there's about 6 or so different websites that run on that use Jekyll.
Okay.
As a static as a framework to build a static website, to basically templatize your web pages and produce your site for you. Just kind of build it. So you modify the images and the text and then
Sure.
And the way that much of the site is written is kind of between 3 things. It's a combo of HTML, CSS, and Markdown, or like there's just a smidge of JavaScript in there, like not much.
Yeah.
What ends up happening, actually, if we sort of break this down for a moment, and we say, well, like actually, if we just look at adapters, I think that's maybe a good thing to. So we're over here in this section of the docs, we've got 1, 2, 10-ish or something adapters. When you go to any of the pages, they're pretty similar. At the top, they have this table. It's like, hey, here's the version that we support it at, and that's why you end up wanting to use something like Jekyll to sort of templatize.
Yeah, like it's almost like a style sheet in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So you can be more intelligently just sort of stop repeating yourself and sort of just
and fill it in, and then you've got a consistent look throughout the site. makes sense.
And so just randomly, we're sitting on Octarine. If the code for the Google for these docs is, it's actually in the main meshery repo. So if we were to click to edit this particular page, this link will take us to where that page is in GitHub. And so it takes us to, and but to walk this backwards, if we just come over to the main repo that introduces the project,
yep.
Docs, and if we right, for adapters, we have a collection, a Jekyll collection of adapters, and they're each in their own markdown file. Some of them are put into a folder just because there's probably a couple of images that are associated with the, just to help organize the, but if we take a look at that very same one, Octarine, and we look at what's actually inside there, it's markdown. There's a little bit of job, I think like, it's so intuitive that like there's a little bit of, there's some, what's the right, macros, if you will, like, or a little bit of variables. And there is there are two docs that tell you what I'm trying to tell you, but hopefully in a better way. Which is,
okay.
When you're in Meshery and you cruise to the docs folder, there's a README on that page that says,
set up your environment. I see. Okay.
Jekyll uses Ruby, and so you can install this stuff on your local machine, or you can you can build the website in a Docker container. It's a little faster if you do it direct on your machine, but it doesn't. Either way, you arrive at the same place.
Well, I can do either Windows 10 or like CentOS 7. What do you think? CentOS be easier or more painful?
It's easier. It's easier because
actually those are objects, if I'm not wrong. What you were just saying, those curly braces. We pass the parameters and the what you said, we pass the parameter in the objects, and those braces were the objects of the Jekyll, where we define the page template inside it, where it gets rendered.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. And so I'm posting a link in the Zoom chat to this Google Doc. It probably says about the same thing. This Google Doc was written exactly for the conversation that we're having, right now, which is, what's the documentation? What are the steps to contribute? What's the framework? Like there'll be some details in here that are like, it doesn't really matter. Like, hey, the fact is, if you go edit the markdown and it gets merged, it's going to show up. And I mean, like,
right.
But so Shriti is a steward of the documentation, so a great individual to collaborate with. There's, as you get in there, please, hopefully you get a sense that it's a meritocracy here, or like, by that I mean, hey, if you think that there needs to be an entire security guide, or like, hey, this area is woefully, hey, where's the upgrade guide? There's bring your thoughts and suggestions, and do your worst.
Sure. Sounds good. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to contributing on the security side. One of the things that we're looking at, you've probably heard of him because he's big into Istio. But Nicholas Chalan, the DoD Chief Software Officer. So that's kind of who we're following. You know, that's how I got into Istio, because he's super excited about Istio. So, and that's what led me to meshery, because I think Istio is really powerful. I just, you know, I'm such a tourist at it right now. That's a conversation for another time. So I have a long way to go, but that's why I'm interested in meshery, because we want to look at, you know, different service mesh options and platforms, because I think that, like I said, I'm just at the beginning of my journey, but I've heard of, I mean, I know that we have Istio running successfully, but I've also heard of some organizations where they just have a hard time running their code on it. But we also have lots of different platforms in the organization that I work for, and some of them are, you know, they're just vastly different scales. So kind of looking at running it on, you know, from real small systems to large, you know, really powerful platforms, and want to be able to like evaluate the features and the security features as well, so we can kind of, you know, use it as a, see if we can use it.
Yeah, yeah. Good. I'm hoping that, well, or I'll say to anticipate, I would expect that you will produce any number of feature requests, because
Yes.
it is, meshery is built under some of the same premises that you just said, which is there's the 2.5% of the world that, let me take it back. There's the 0.505% of the world that feels comfortable with a service mesh, and then there's all the rest of us, and it's going to be another 7 to 10 years of people. Like it takes a long damn time to get to containers, to get to container orchestration, to get to service meshing, and this networking stuff is confusing.
Yeah. Well, it's complicated because there's so many different layers of technology. I mean, starting with, you know, you've got your container runtime, then your container orchestration, and then your service mesh on top of that. It's just so deep.
Yeah. Even if you, exactly, like just the bit of networking there is, I don't know. Yeah, I couldn't even articulate to you off the top of my head how many times the packets get touched as they go through.
Right.
And so,
right.
yeah.
And that's a problem for us, you know, just in terms of visibility. Like, the only way to know what's going on is maybe go out and get the code and read it, or look at how do we actually trace a packet's flow? Like, what's it really doing? You know, what's actually happening? And that's for organizations like mine, that sort of visibility is kind of key. And I think as that gets started, my future request will be around, like, don't do things that would make the platform unusable by our type of industry, you know, because I think there's ways in the future, you know, or maybe even now, that service mesh could even protect critical infrastructure, you know. So I think there's some interesting and neat opportunities there to look at, like, you know, can we protect older legacy applications, you know, that support health and welfare, you know, medical and power and sanitation, you know, things like that, just from a theoretical perspective.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you can bring that security right up to the app. If you can bring it, assign it its own, its own ID. You can, if you can. As a matter of fact, I would argue that you could, well, dramatically. Yeah, you can. Assuming that there aren't, issues or that it's done in the wrong way, but that you could dramatically improve the posture of those apps today. And
yeah,
the thing is to your point, like if I were operating Istio, I'd probably poop my pants if I had to go make a change to one of the like one of the virtual services or something, to the way that the traffic is routing. Sort of assuming that like what I was intending to have, the change that I was intending was in fact what was going to actually happen, because there isn't necessarily a lot of tooling around dry runs or visualizing a change before you make it, or so, yeah.
I had the GitHub page up that I wanted to ask you about that had I think it was 2107 was the issue around the documentation, and I have so many tabs open on my screen now, I'm having a hard time finding it.
Yeah. Let's see. So it.
What did I buried it. I must have been like in the Slack or something and buried it behind something. But I need to reboot my Windows box, I think.
I'm sure I could
Coming
point
to
it out to
Windows.
you if you just scroll down.
So coming to Windows, I just purchased a new laptop, so it's running on Windows 10, and I'm getting serious issues on running meshery on my system. So can anyone help me overcome that?
Vijay Cherakuri, one of the meshmates, he's probably a great, or not probably, he's a great one to go ask. There is a document, by the way. Shriti, do you know where the document is? That it's in the community drive for running meshery on Windows. I will readily, setting up your meshery development environment on Windows. Vijay authored this one. Vijay.
Can you send me the link on Slack, please?
Yeah, you bet.
Or put it in the chat. Can you put it in the Zoom chat?
Yeah.
I'd like to grab it too.
Sure.
I'll probably stay with CentOS, but
actually, I had a talk with Lee some time ago, like in the last month, about the UI of meshery. I was like figuring out how to improve that and just drawing sketches of that. And I think I can improve that. I was working on React, and that thing is made in React, right?
Oh boy, my brain was doing. You were talking about meshery's UI. Yeah, meshery's UI.
Yeah.
React runs on Next.js. Yes. There's. Yeah. Just after Get Nighthawk is done, we'll do that.
Yeah. Of course. No hurry.
So I'm putting in Vijay's name, into the doc here as a good person to hit up. Vijay's a meshmate, and so he expects to be hit up. So.
Okay.
And the reason that I said CentOS for the docs is mostly because Jekyll itself. There's been a number of contributors who try to use Jekyll on Windows and they stumble. Shriti, did we wrote up a doc on that? I thought. Did Ruth?
Oh, we did.
Yeah, if you have that handy,
I'll send a link.
Yes, I use that. I can share the link. I was actually searching for that when you talked about Windows.
Oh, nice. Very good. So it may be that we are past some of the Jekyll Windows issues. I'm not sure. Jekyll tutorial Windows. Nice. All right. So this one, where's this one? This one's under the community folder in the Google Drive. Okay. Cool. Nice work.
There's actually a video tutorial for that as well. We did it as a workshop for one of the newcomer meetings.
Yeah. Can you put a link to that recording in here? That would be a great reference. And I guess the link that that recording that you're referring to is, well, it's out here under newcomers, I guess. So much stuff that we've done. Wow.
Well, Lee, based on your personal experience, what's better to use for running meshery, Linux or Windows?
Linux. And like, yeah, I'll say it without hesitation. I mean, like, to be frank, you know how I was talking about like 0.05% of the world is running a service mesh or what have you. Like, I'll say 2% of the world is running Windows, no, 1% of the world is running Windows-based container stuff. Like, it ain't where Windows, like, it's an awesome dev tool for Docker Desktop on Windows to do various things. And, the WSL on Windows, what an amazing thing that is. Anyway, my point is like, yeah, we try to make concessions considerations as we go for being Windows compatible. And shoot, it's hard enough getting stuff done on. Yeah, if you guys find bugs and issues and challenges with Windows, let's get them filed. Sean, I thought there was one last thing that you had said.
Yeah, I was asking you about issue 2010. I'll put it in the chat. Just 1 second here. Just so I'm clear about what you were asking for, so I can.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, so this is maybe this is I've done you a disservice if I pointed this one out. Not only because it's larger in scope and not everything is defined just yet, but when people, that doesn't mean that you wouldn't have a lot of success with it and you wouldn't be able to, but what it is when people are running meshery, as the contributors are writing code, when they catch an error and they send it to a log, we're trying to institute a practice of assigning a specific error code so that so that you say, oh, that's error code 2008. What the heck does that mean? You could Google search for meshery error code 2008 would take you to the meshery docs, and you'd say, oh, it would have it would have this, a description, it would have a probable cause and a suggested remediation.
Yep.
And we're only so far into this. It might be, don't let me stop you. Don't ever let me discourage you from working on something, but it might be.
Sounds like it might not be the best place to start.
Yeah.
For me, since I'm so new to this.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
So would it be creating some of the skeleton pages to hold that stuff in the documentation? Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly it. That when you go, into the meshery documentation on the left hand, I keep typing the wrong thing. On the left hand side, that essentially there would ultimately be like another reference. It would be a troubleshooting guide. And,
right.
And yeah, even if for now it didn't actually tell you how to fix any errors, it just said there is such a thing as error codes and help.
Right.
Hey, that's enough. That's we can publish that.
At least to show people that we're moving in that direction. I think, yeah. Okay. I think it sounds like my first step is to read through some of the docs that you shared today, get set up on Jekyll, get that working, and then probably take an example document that's out there and then rework that just on my own dev side, so I can create something that would be an extension or would be similar. Does that sound like good first steps?
Yeah, absolutely. Totally.
Okay.
This, I don't think it gets any more welcoming in this community, which is to say, like, no, there isn't a silly question. Like, there's a ton of people who didn't make it as far as you've just described.
Okay.
The newcomers channel, there tends to be a lot of folks in there that you can ask in any channel, but just in the newcomers channel, there tends to be a lot of folks who have focused on Jekyll.
Good. Okay.
I guess, I'll begrudgingly wish you to enjoy your 4-day weekend.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, sounds good. Yeah, I'll start, doing some more reading and getting Jekyll set up, and just try to get integrated.
Oh, very good. Oh, nice to talk to you, Sean. Nice to talk to everybody else as well. We'll see you guys later.
Good to meet you, Mert. See you, Fritja.
See you later.
See you, everyone.
Bye, everyone. See you, Shruti. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, people.
Bye.